Encounter with the Thiaoban's enlightened alien race. I have to wonder whether this is a real encounter, a prankster entity messing with the author's life, or just the author's vivid imagination. Regardless, the message seems strong. The author, now dead, of the book Thiaoba Prophecy says he encountered a being from planet Thiaoba, who took him to her planet and taught him the nature of our universe, our earthly origins, and a bunch of other nuggets. Main theme was that we, humans on Earth, are too materialistic and need to get back to spirituality in order to progress. Reincarnation is real, our ancestors are immigrants from other planets, etc. She then gave him the mission to tell humans about all this by writing a book, and this is the book he wrote. Author then died frustrated and divorced, partly because nobody believed him and the book didn't gain too much traction while he was alive. Apparently it was a bestseller in China and Taiwan after he died. Explanations: it usually seems that spirits, ghosts, or whatever are associated with older homes with a lot of history. I'm looking for some input on my experiences with unexplained noises in new construction that has always been my home. I live in a home that we built, so no old history to the house. One particular room is the source of the unexplained noises. It's a small bedroom. The child, number 1, whose room it originally was, is diagnosed with schizophrenia. They often had hallucinations. Could it somehow be connected? Rustling, knocks, banging, just general noise when no one is in the room. The first instance I remember, one of my children, number 2, was sleeping in this room. It's next to my bedroom and I was awakened by knocking on the wall. Loud enough to wake me. I of course went to check. Child number 2 was sleeping. No one sleeps in this room now, but the noises continue. We usually hear them during the day. First anomalous event account: a family story. My parents were not long married when this happened, about 1955, before I existed. By the time I learned of this story, they had long been divorced. My father was not in our lives anymore, so the story was related to me by my mother. Back then, early in the marriage, he sometimes went pheasant hunting in Iowa with a group of his friends, and he had just returned from one of those trips. The fields in Iowa ranged from gently hilly to more or less flat. The idea was that you would be accompanied by a hunting dog or two, and you would scatter and walk the stubbled fields and unworked brush patches, shotguns at the ready, in the hope of someone scaring up one or more birds. But when he returned from his trip in '55, I am told, he was visibly shaken. He told her he'd seen one of those cigar-shaped UFOs, and he would just not talk about it any further. Found picture today: the grandmother of my girlfriend's daughter started a new job, her first time in this building according to her. Inside the building she found a picture of myself, my girlfriend, and my girlfriend's daughter pinned on a bulletin board. It was a printed copy of the picture. Same size and everything as the one we used to have in our bedroom before throwing it out. She asked around how it got there and came to someone that says she found it in her locker and put it on the bulletin board in case someone that worked there lost it. The place she started work at is less than a 10-minute drive from where my girlfriend and I live, so my only explanation is it fell out the trash and ended up there and somebody picked it up. Thoughts? Forgive me if this is not the correct place for a post like this, and please direct me to a more suitable sub for it. Ghost creature: this is a short story of something that happened to me a few years back. My girlfriend had recently moved in with me, bringing her cat Lola with her. And she would often sleep with us. I grew up with cats, so I had no issues with this. One night, as I'm drifting off to sleep, I feel Lola come over to my side and curl up. So, naturally, I start petting her. My girlfriend then asked what I was doing. I told her, I'm petting Lola. Why? She then said, you can't be, she's over here with me. When I put my hand back to check, I only felt the bed. The cat I had just been petting had just disappeared. I never felt threatened from that, but it spooked me for a while. Goddess in the Clouds: I took this photo from a book of mine, The Rough Guide to Unexplained Phenomena, detailing 2 photos that apparently capture a real-life Chinese goddess in the sky. I've heard of apparitions of Jesus and Mary but never any other godly entity, and I find these photos fascinating as they're quite unique. The one on the left I've worked out is fake. If you Google Kuan Yin, which is the Chinese goddess said to be in the pictures, you'll find a painting that looks a lot like the left one, which shows she is standing on a dragon. The other, however, I don't know about, which is why I brought it here. There is nowhere I could find online talking about either of these photos, which made me think they must be very obscure, so that's another reason I felt like bringing them here. Does anyone know of anything else to do with these photos and other such cases like this? Thanks. Haunted hotel spirits. So, about 20 years ago, I worked at a hotel that was over 100 years old. We had a room that was rumored to be haunted. The room was old, and it was in a corner kind of by itself. I went in with another manager once. We were curious, and the room was empty, but we heard what sounded like a quick laugh, think hee hee, from the bathroom. I walked the 3 steps to that door, but the room was empty. We freaked out and went back to our office. Later that night, I was in the lobby managing an event, when a couple came flying out of the elevator, ran to the front desk, and checked out with no explanation at 11 p.m. They looked pale and in a hurry. Turns out, they were staying in that room. The front desk manager told me that it happened at least once a month. Flushed face creepy. Anyone else have any haunted hotel stays? Have you ever met someone who just felt evil, dangerous, not human at all, like the person is seemingly normal, but just gives horrible vibes? Example. One of my hobbies is running, and one day I went for a nightly run. I was at my city's park when all of a sudden I felt uneasy and with a feeling of impending doom. I looked at my left and a woman was sitting on one of the park benches, staring at me. She wasn't dressed weird or anything like that. Physically she was just a normal woman in her 30s, but the instant I looked at her, my instincts kicked back and my whole body screamed, "Get away!" She was dressed in a shirt and jeans, with a purse. Her hair was medium length and dirty blonde. Completely normal. To this day, I have no clue about what happened. Her light, she was so bright and beautiful in her youth. Everything she looked upon, her brightness would give it life. She was worshipped and loved by all for many of her years. Her beauty was undefined. But as she grew older, she became vain and greedy. And with that greed grew darkness. It grew inside of her every year, this heavy darkness. It began to consume her entirely. It consumed her until she had nothing left to give, and she only wanted to take. Yes, she thought, she would take it all. All of the life and light she had given, she would take it back and it would die within her. With the sun's last breath, you could hear the final screams of humanity as she died and consumed all that surrounded her. What she once helped to create, she now destroyed. Once it was bright, once it was beautiful. But now it's all dark, now it's all dead. I followed what I thought was my mom the other day. I was walking out of my bedroom, I'm just barely standing in the doorframe when out of the corner of my right eye I see the back of my mom walking into her bedroom. I follow and call out to what I thought was her, but stop at the door and look into her room. The lights are off, curtains are closed, and there's absolutely no one in there. I call for her again and she opens the door to the bathroom asking me what I needed. I told her what happened and she laughed it off, but I just stood there uncomfortably. I find when I recall these things just minutes after they happen, it feels like trying to recall a dream, but I know it happened. This isn't my first paranormal experience in my house, and in general, but from what my family and I have seen and heard in it, it could have been a lot worse. I saw what seemed like a shadow figure in my room yesterday. I got home from work last night and fell asleep watching a YouTube video. At some point the lights turned off, probably my mom peeking in, and when I woke up, the light coming from my alarm clock was obstructed by an all-black figure with a dark, almost navy, blue eyes reaching towards my bird's cage. Thinking it was one of my parents, I said, "What the hell are you doing in my room?" and it looked at me. I'll never forget what it looked like. Its eyes were a lot bigger than human eyes and it looked almost scared. It still freaks me out with how it was reaching for my bird. I was paralyzed in fear, making eye contact with it for a solid couple minutes before I could reach slowly for my bedside table lamp, and when I turned it on it disappeared. I think I felt him die. I, 28F, cannot believe this myself and came here to ask if this has ever happened to anyone else. I have a childhood best friend, T, 28M, who I would somewhat keep in touch with. I knew he got into trouble every so often, but that was how he lived. On Saturday night/Sunday morning around 2 a.m. I got a sick feeling, my heart was racing, I felt nauseous, sweaty, I really thought I was dying. I couldn't get his picture out of my mind while this was happening. I sent him a message because I was so anxious and sick about if he was okay. I just found out today he died the same time I had that really odd episode. He never responded, and I know why. Has anyone else experienced this? I am lost. I took a job as a night guard at friend's diner. It was my worst mistake. Part 1. When I got evicted from my apartment, my girlfriend told me that I can't see her again until I had a job in a house. When I read the morning paper, I immediately jumped for joy when I saw a $20 an hour job for a place called Friend's Diner. I went there as a kid, but I didn't think what I would see on my first night would be as horrifying as it was. The job was a 10 to 7 shift and I thought it was good pay. On my first night, me and my partner Ryan headed up the stairs of the diner to the security office. The first few hours were boring until about 3:45 hit the clock. I checked the camera and saw a 10-foot-tall figure twitching with blood dripping from its mouth. Upvote for Part 2. I worked as a security guard for 10 years when I had submitted for my 2-week notice. On the last day, I was strolling through a hallway doing my normal routes. The light shut off. On instinct I assumed it was a power outage since it had been raining for a few hours. Then out of the corner of my eye I see a dark figure swarming the end of the hallway I had just come from. I was too scared to move. It crept behind me and whispered in a low, bone-crawling voice. Never be alone in the dark. To this day my wife always calls me paranoid. But I know what I saw. That's why I never wish to leave her. Because if I do, I fear what is in the dark. Edit 1, thanks for the silver. It's one of my first posts ever. I'm scared. I had a guy follow me home. I was out getting coffee and I'm walking home and there is this dude on the sidewalk checking me out. Whatever, that's fine, it happens. But then I see him again, like this man got in his car, drove ahead of me, like I didn't even see him get out of his car. The second time I saw him he was just there. Then I'm walking into my apartment building about to buzz myself in. There he is right behind me, running in. He got so close to me. Mind you, it's F*King daylight. Then after he finally leaves I go into my building and let the Uber Eats guy in who was there the whole time. Then he starts hitting on me. Like it's fine getting compliments, but I don't want them right after I got F*King followed into my building. He was also very persistent and wouldn't take no for an answer.